Hey y'all, I'm Josh Brodesky. I'm the editorial page editor for the San Antonio Express-News, and I'm going to assume that if you're watching this, then you are thinking about voting in this year's primary election. I just wanted to walk you through how the editorial board makes recommendations and why the editorial board makes recommendations. One question as editorial page editor, one question that I'm often asked is, what is the editorial board? And I think it's important to kind of understand what that is and who is on it. So the editorial board is the institutional voice of the paper. It's a group of independent opinion journalists. We're not affiliated with a political party, and we're not associated with the newsroom. While the newsroom's job is to be objective, our job is to arrive at conclusions. And in this case, our editorial board is comprised of 4 journalists: myself, Carrie Clack, who's an editorial writer and columnist, Brandon Lingle, another editorial writer and columnist, and Nancy Pryor Johnson, who is our associate editorial page editor. So those are the 4 members of the editorial board, and we report directly to Mark Medici, our publisher. So when we deliberate about which candidates to recommend, it's these 4 people, and then sometimes with input from the publisher, that allows us to arrive at our conclusion. Let's start with the why, actually. Editorial boards have a long history of making candidate recommendations, and I don't think anybody truly expects would-be voters to go through our list of candidates and agree with us on every single decision. I think at the most basic level, our hope is that these recommendations inspire you to do your own research, to look at all the candidates on the ballot, and to kind of weigh what you prioritize about them. But I do think that it's important for the institutional voice of the paper, that is the editorial board, to meet with these candidates, to go through a vetting process, to discuss policy issues and kind of gauge these candidates' backgrounds and their understanding of policies so we can make for you all as an informed recommendation as possible. So to the degree that they're helpful or a starting point for your research, I think that's wonderful. I think also, in particular for those races that maybe don't get as much attention, think a county clerk's race or some of the judicial races, it's really, really helpful to have an independent, nonpartisan group of journalists meet with these candidates and dig into the backgrounds, the experience, and questions of judicial temperament, and so on. So I think there's a lot of value in the process, especially for all races, but especially those races that maybe don't get as much attention as the others. As far as our process, we extend invitations to almost all the candidates on the ballot. We start at the top, in this case with the gubernatorial and congressional races, and we work our way down to local elections. We invite Democrats and Republicans, and this year we've been meeting with them over Zoom, asking pretty much all the same questions. What's their background? Why are they running? How they view particular issues? And this serves as a starting point. From there, we will do additional research. We'll look at their social media feeds. We'll go through our own newspaper archives. We will talk to sources, and we'll arrive to a conclusion. Sometimes with recommendations, we end up recommending candidates that we might disagree with on many issues, but we see them as having certain qualities of leadership that are important. Other times, we might recommend a candidate mostly because they face a slew of challengers that are wholly unqualified. So there are a lot of factors that will go into a recommendation, but our biggest hope is that this is a public service to you all.